All right, guys, I'm going to try to help you set up your gradebooks in Aeries. I'm a middle school teacher, so my gradebook looks a little bit different. I've gone through and learned a couple ways to add gradebooks to Aeries for elementary school. There's really two that I came up with that I really like. You guys probably do them different ways. Hopefully, this helps. If you have other ways that you think will help or are more efficient than what I'm doing, I'll leave my email at the end of the video. Please send that to me, and I'll add those in future videos. But right now, I think these are probably the two. Um, what I would do if I was an elementary school teacher. I will say your grade books are kind of convoluted and you got a lot of work to do. So I feel for you with all of this stuff. But these are the two that I think are the two best ways to do this. So anyway, let's add a grade book. First of all, let's go to Gradebook and add Gradebook. Now you guys have standards based grading. So I look at this a couple ways. The first way is I'm going to make a grade book for each standard, and then each assignment is going to be attached to one of the sub standards or of that actual standard. So I'm going to start with a writing grade book, and I'm just going to call it writing, and I'm going to say that's for trimester 2, and then it's going to be associated with my third grade class. So I'm going to hit save. So all the graded writing that I do is going to go into this grade book. I'm not going to go over all the details of the grade books. I'm just going to go over the big picture stuff. So options, you can read through each of these options and see if they fit you at all. I generally don't check many of them. Categories I am going to use in this case for writing. I'm going to add categories. I like to have categories in my grade book just for organization. And for writing, my first category is me for purpose, and I also like to use colors. I just like them. They You'll see when you're organizing that these kind of help. So my next category is going to be evidence. And once I get my categories done, I'm going to hit save. I'm just going to walk down the line, even though I usually add students second. Uh, but let's look at assignments. Here in assignments, we can add assignments. We actually can't add assignments until you add categories. So I guess the option of adding categories I forgot doesn't happen. And one thing I forgot to talk about, you can do weighted scoring as well. But remember, your weighted scoring needs to add up to 100%. Sorry about that little aside. So you need to do categories before you add assignments. So right now I'm going to add an assignment, and I'm going to call this first one purpose. And I can make this assignment summative or formative. The category I'm going to add it to is purpose and organization. I'm going to give it a 4-point rubric. Due date, assigned on, and due date, kind of self-explanatory. Grading completed. You check that when you enter all your grades. For you guys in elementary school, the most important thing is to add your standard. Adding the standard here will link it to your standard-based grades. So when you export your grades to be mailed home, this is important. If you don't do this, it's not going to link those together. So I'm going to click add a standard. So I can click on the drop down menus and I can navigate to the standards. That takes a little bit of time. Not that much time, right? I can just click this and add it. An easier way is if you write down the standards beforehand, make sure you have local selected, right? You can select any of these standards to attach, but we're going to use the local standards that LuciaMar has. And I know that purpose and organization is standard 1202. And I'm going to hit search. There it is. I'm going to add it. And I'm going to hit OK. So everything here looks good. And now I'm going to hit save and new. And this one's going to be evidence. and just I don't know, just leave it as summative. And this category is going to be evidence elaboration, another 4 point rubric. And then the standard I'm going to add here again, make sure it says local. I like to search for it, 1203. Make sure it matches. Boom, add it. Not clear, sorry. Hit OK. And then one more. Let me add one more assignment. Okay, this is a 10 point assignment. Now save and close. Sorry about that. All right, so now we have all our assignments. Now we need to add some students. So we're going to manage students. It will tell me I have students to add or to be dropped. This is done automatically. It'll have your whole class list for you when kids are dropped. Uh, it'll prompt you for that as well. When you get new kids during the school year, you'll get prompted on that as well. So I'm going to hit add, and I'm just going to hit add all students. And that takes a couple seconds. Hit close. Now, final marks, you're going to go through and set this up however you want. I'm going to leave it as it is. If you don't want to have letter grades, then you can have them be on a 4 point rubric or 4 point scale, and just however you want to do these, as long as it ends up being from 0 to 100. Rules, you can add like drop your lowest test score or something like that. And the rest of these you can read through on your own. Now, I am going to go to scores by class to show you what the gradebook looks like. Looks like any of your other standard gradebook. It's got your students. It's got each assignment in each category. If I want to make sure I have the correct standard attached, I can click on the assignment and it will show me all of the information. I can enter and edit scores from here, which is kind of nice, especially if you're using Google Classroom and you're grading in Google Classroom. You can import from there. You can import from an Excel file if you like as well. So entering scores is pretty easy. You just go through, enter your scores. You can also enter scores if you're back at the gradebook from here as well. That's one way to set up a gradebook, and I think that one I know you'd have to set up a bunch of gradebooks, if you do it by standard. So if we went home and looked at your standards-based grades, I know it would be a bunch of grade books. So one for writing, I might include spelling, listening, and speaking in apparent language arts, one for mathematics, with each of these being assignments. But that would be up to you. So the second way that you can add a grade book is like this. So I'm back in my grade books. I'm going to add a grade book. This time I'm going to call it Logue's grade book. So now I'm not dividing this up by standard, each grade book by standard. I'm going to make one grade book for my entire class. Hit trimester 2, hit third grade, hit save. And everything is the same here. I have my options, categories. Now, categories I'm going to do a little bit differently. So I'm going to add a new category, and now I'm going to call this one. You don't have to give them colors if you want to go quicker. So you see where I'm going with that. So for each subject now, I would add a category. And then instead of adding for assignments, when I add an assignment, let's say that this is a spelling test. And I'm going to make this a formative assessment, or sorry, a summative assessment. That would go under language arts. And let's say there's 20 questions. And when I add the standard, I'm going to search for my spelling standard, add that, hit OK, and I'm going to hit save and new. And this is going to be a math test. And that's obviously going to go under the math category. And this will make it 35 questions. And the standard, I'm just going to pick a random standard. So we're going to say mathematics. We're going to say number sense. Add that, hit OK. I'm going to hit save and close. We have our scores here. Looks just like our other grade book. I hit spelling test. I know it's going to be attached to that standard, so that's great. When I can enter my math test and I know it's attached to that standard, that looks great as well. And I just enter my grades. Now, the difference, what's going to happen here is it's going to give a kid an overall grade for your class. So instead of this grade being just a spelling grade or just a math grade or just a science grade, it's an overall grade for your class, which, if you like it that way, yeah, you like that way. The kid's got an A in third grade and it breaks down to different standards. But I do think if you want just one grade book, that it works this way. There's different reports that you can run to look at each category. So then when you maybe sent home a progress report or wanted to look at differently, you could see the breakdown of the kids' grades. Let's actually look what that would look like. You could see when I looked at this person's grades in writing, they have a 3, which would be a 70%. And well, actually, sorry, let's look at this one on spelling tests. I could look, they had 100% on their spelling test, 94% on their math test. And then when you break it down in categories, that would be your overall mark for language arts. And this would be your overall mark for math. So I think that works all right. The two downfalls I do think with having one big grade book with all your subjects in it is, one, the grade book gets really big. And then two, in order to see the breakdown for each total grade and not an overall grade for like third grade, first grade, you would have to look at their individual view and then look at their category totals. But either way works, I think. So this took kind of a while to go through. You can fast forward, rewind, however you like, but hopefully this helps you out with your grade books and getting them all set up.